Hello and welcome. Today's episode is going to be a noisy one, or it might be a noisy one because the kids are home. Now, recently I had a conversation with a certain Mr. Femi, who is a sales practitioner of over 21 years. So, obviously, the guy is senior me, as in he's been selling for a while. So, he has sold in MTN, he has sold in Amazon, and he has also had a career selling real estate. Oh, by the way, this his career history is self-professed, as in he was telling me, not that I verified. Anyway, so this Mr. Femi called in on my radio show, and at the particular time, I can't remember what it was I was discussing, but he called in to say that he agreed with some of the stuff I was saying because I think I was at the point where I was trying to convince another radio listener that subject matter expertise is foundational when it comes to selling. You need to know what's up as it relates to your product or your service. Because you can't sell convincingly if you don't know what it is you're talking about. If there are aspects of the product or the service that you don't know, while you're having a conversation with the prospect, with the potential client, and you're trying to convince them, the gaps in your knowledge will become obvious. So, when I say that, it's not to say that you have to be the absolute best, that you have to know every single thing, or that you have to be, at PhD level when it comes to your product or service. But there are a couple of things that you need to know. So, Mr. Femi agreed that, yeah, expertise is foundational to selling. And then I think before then I had been talking to someone about know, like, and trust. That for people to be able to buy from you, first of all, they have to know that you exist. That's why the marketing function is really, really important. So whether you're going out and talking to people or you're running advertisements or whatever it is you're doing, people have to know that you exist, first of all. Then they also have to like you. They also have to trust you. We had some debate about this whole thing of likability. And that's because people skew too much on the likability part. No, you want to be liked. So you're talking so that you can be liked. You try and say things so that you can be liked. Your whole demeanor is so that people can like you. And yeah, I agree. Likability is important. But it's not really the main, like how people carry it on their head. You just do a good job of following your process and being a good salesperson, being a good founder, being a good CEO, being a good business owner, and the likability will follow. That's assuming you're not a rude twat. But setting out to be liked, I don't think is a good thing when it comes to sales. But anyway, when Mr. Femi called, we had a friendly conversation about what is important in selling and what is not important. And then while he was on the air, he spoke about his own personal philosophy or his own requirements for effective selling. And of course, I obliged him because the whole point of this podcast and the whole point of the radio show is to share knowledge freely so that we all can grow. So he said that to sell effectively, you need a system for lead generation. And I agree wholeheartedly. In fact, those of you who listen to the podcast, regular listeners, you probably already know my definition for lead. A lead is anybody who has done something to show in the past that he might be interested in your product or your service. So in the beginning, when you're going around trying to talk to everybody from pillar to post, that is prospecting. You're just using your own common sense. Let me shoot my shot. Let me try my luck. Who might be interested? But the moment somebody does something to say, hey, I'm interested, if they take their flyer and then they call you, that's a lead. If you drop a lead magnet and then they download it and maybe send you an email, that's a lead. The most important thing when we're dealing with leads is we're waiting for somebody to do something that we can point to, something objective that we can see, that we can discern. And then we know that, okay, this is a lead. There is some seriousness here. It doesn't mean that the deal is going to close, but it's a good sign. So Mr. Femi said everybody needs to have a system for lead generation. By the way, I hope you guys noticed what Mr. Femi said. He said everybody needs a system. Because I keep talking about systems. I keep talking about frameworks. And some of you don't get it. It has to be a system. If it's not a system, you will try today, try tomorrow, try next tomorrow, forget next week, forget for 2 weeks, come back next month, and you won't have predictable results. You won't have stable results. You'll be up and down, and you won't know which part of your process needs to be improved. So it has to be a system. The reason why it has to be a system is so that this thing can work. What's that word? Predictably over time. So, like with the podcast, my podcast is a source of lead generation for me. So I have to keep doing the thing. If I don't keep doing the thing, it doesn't work. System breaks down. So for whatever business it is that you have, you need to have a system. So back in my event days, I used to go for business expos, bridal shows. So that's how my partner and I used to go and drum up business. But it was a system. So at certain parts of the year, certain shows come up, we just go ahead and we apply. We're broke, we raise the money and we apply. It is part of our system. We need a system for lead generation. We need a system that has people raising up their hands to say, I might be interested in what it is you're talking about. How can I learn some more? Or how much do you cost? Or do you deliver to Sokoto? Or do you do this? Do you do that? We need a system. We don't have that. We can't sell effectively. So for some of you, the reason why you're struggling in your business is because lead generation, no system at all. Now, Mr. Femi spoke about relationships, also important. This is one of those things that I will fight with some people here and there because, every single time you say like ability or relationships, people assume that, oh, let's go outside and make friends. No. When we say relationship in sale, we don't mean friendship. Everybody has enough friends. In fact, people have too many friends. They're not looking to add friends. But every single time that people stand in relation to each other, in relation, that's why it's called a relationship. So somehow, you and me, we have a relationship. I'm here on this side of the microphone. You are over there on the other side of the microphone. I'll be on the other side of the speaker or the headphones. So in a way, we are in a relationship, even though we're not best friends. So that's the sort of thing that we mean when we say relationships in sales. You guys are standing in a certain, I don't want to use that word relationship again because my father used to tell me, he said, Tabishima, don't use circular definitions. I said, Dad, what is a circular definition? He says, a circular definition is when you try to define a word by using that word itself. And so far, I'm defining relationships by saying relationship. Anyway, you get my point. Sure, you don't have to be friends. Then, Mr. Femi also says that you also need a system for need analysis. And please notice, he said system. That's for those of you who disagree with me, because I keep saying it. This thing has to be a system. In fact, my number one quarrel with working with salespeople is I usually have to hit them over the head with this thing. Like, look, there has to be a framework. Well, where's your sheet of paper? Let me see. Where did you write it down? No, I didn't write it down. I have it in my head. Like, if the thing is in your head, that's not a system. I have to see it on paper. Your teammates have to see it on paper. Your guy has to see it on paper or on the computer or something, or you scratch it out in the sand. But people need to be able to see it and critique it and see that, oh, this is how part A works with part B, works with part C. Write it out. Eventually, you will internalize the system and you won't need it. So there are certain conversations that I have with people now that, the process is internalized. There's no need for me to write it down. But at some point in the beginning, it had to be written out so that I could see it, I could look at it, I could follow it, I could critique it, I could improve on it. If it's in your head and you're starting out, you're a beginner. It's not a system. It's not a framework. You're just freestyling. You're just doing vibes. Or maybe you have some good habits that you learned from somebody else. So need analysis. To be able to sell, you need to have a system for trying to be able to figure out what it is that people want. Because it's only when you know what it is that somebody wants that you'll be able to present accordingly. Take, for instance, this Mr. Femi guy selling for MTN. You know that MTN doesn't just sell what's it called? SIMs. In the beginning they used to sell phones as well. That's when they first came into Nigeria, during Obasanjo's era. So back then, yes, MTN would sell phones, they would sell SIMs, they would sell data services, and they would sell what else? Office connectivity and blah 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 and all that other stuff. So when someone like Mr. Femi walks into the office of a prospect, he needs to be able to do need analysis to figure out exactly what this person or this business needs. So there's some offices that Mr. Femi would go into back in the good old days, and the only thing he can sell to them is mobile phones because maybe their office connectivity is already okay, their router is okay, they already have data package. But GSM was brand new back in the day, so maybe not everybody has cell phone. So maybe in this office he will only sell cell phones. Then he might go to another office. Everybody has cell phones, but maybe everybody's working with their own private internet. And then maybe in that case, what he'll be able to sell to the business will be, office connectivity, router, Wi-Fi, high-speed internet, one thing, networking, blah 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 blah. But it's need analysis that will determine what it is that he's going to say when he gets to one place. Unfortunately, too many of you are walking around and basically you're just telling people, follow me, come buy market. Follow me, come buy market. I mean, nobody like that. You don't just go with the same canned pitch everywhere. Like those of you who sell beauty products. Sister, buy my soap, buy my soap, buy my soap, buy my soap. It's good for your skin. It will bring out your color. It will bring out your color. Why are you running around telling everybody? Yeah, because there are a few listeners who are still in uni and who sell beauty products. So for those of you who sell beauty products, why are you running around telling all your female classmates, buy my soap, will bring out your color? Did she tell you she wants her color to come out? Some people want their color to come out. There are other people who want to be, black beauty. The thing that you will say when you're standing in front of someone who wants to be black beauty is different from when you're talking to somebody who wants her color to come out. Need analysis. So that when you're in front of black beauty, you will say one thing, you will present one thing. When you're in front of let my color come out, you will say one thing, you will present another thing. When you're in front of somebody who has acne, you will say one thing, you will present something else. When you're in front of somebody who complains of dry skin, you will say one thing, you will say something else. But it won't be the same pitch when you're talking to Mrs. Acne. It won't be the same thing when you're talking to let my color come out. It won't be the same thing when you're talking to black beauty. And it won't be the same thing when you're talking to Madam Dry Skin. Need analysis so that you will know what to say when you're in front of somebody. If you've been trying to hustle your market and you've had the same sales pitch for everybody, that is your problem, and that is one of the reasons why you're struggling. Now, Mr. Femi also said we need a process for trying to close, and I agree with him, but I'll quarrel small because too many people focus on the close. The problem is we don't open the conversations well. Now, back to this skin thing. If you have the same pitch for everybody, the girl who wants to be yellow, the same sales pitch. The girl who wants to remain black, the same sales pitch. The one with oily skin, the same sales pitch. The one with dry skin, the same sales pitch. The one with acne, the same sales pitch. Definitely amongst that mix, you're talking to somebody who doesn't, there's a mismatch. The person doesn't need what it is you're trying to sell. Because there's no need, it doesn't matter how hard you try to close, you're not going to close. Except if you beg, and it helps. Begging can help. Like, sister, I beg, follow me, come buy market. I beg, So worst case scenario is you can beg. It helps. So it's not about the close. It's about how you start the conversation. It's about how you open the conversation. If in the beginning you open the conversation well and you make sure that you're doing good need analysis and you're making presentations to the people who need to hear that particular kind of presentation, then can you see that the close becomes easier? So Mr. Femi is correct. We need to learn how to close. The problem is too many of you are focusing on how do I close deals? How do I close deals? Nah, it's not about how do you close deals. How do you open deals? You open it well, the close will become easier. That's also a fight I have with lots of salespeople because I don't know, maybe it's because of Weibo film or whatever. Sure, everybody just thinks, oh, I'm a closer. I got to close. Just open well first. It's like people who are good at toasting. The reason why they're successful at toasting is because they started the conversation well. So, Let's see what else. Then referrals. I was really happy to hear Mr. Femi talk about that. That everybody needs to have a system for referrals. That's one thing that is missing for lots of folks because we focus on closing the deal and collecting money. We forget that it's not just about how much money you collect today, but whether the person will come back and buy from you tomorrow. That's the scope. So to succeed in sales, collect money from them today. But we need to have a system to make sure that they come back next month or they come back in 2 months or that they refer their friends. Too many of you don't have a system for that. Close the deal with somebody, you're happy today, they transfer you, 6M, and you're happy, you go and do Thanksgiving and then you pay tight 10%, but you don't have a system for staying in touch with that person or making sure that that person who just wired you 6M will, tell his or her friend who might also be able to set, wire you another, 3, 4, 5M. You need a system for that. And in case you haven't realized the pattern, in the conversation with Mr. Femi and I'm sure you have heard system, or process, like I say, or framework. So Mr. Femi was saying system. Sometimes I say system, sometimes I say process, sometimes I say framework, but essentially the same thing. So, it doesn't matter who it is you talk to, whether you talk to me, or whether there's a Mr. Femi in your life, or whether you listen to Oyibo podcasts. Essentially, we're all talking about the same thing when we talk about sales and selling. I'm glad you love the podcast. I'm glad you subscribed, and I'm glad that you're here. But don't feel as if, like, this is the alpha and the omega. Like, if you don't listen to this podcast, you'll be lost. I'd love to have you remain here, and I'd love to be your coach. I'd love to, do business with you. But truth of the matter is, wherever it is you go, you'll be fine. So if you're talking to older colleagues, you'll be fine. If you're reading books, you'll be fine. If you listen to other podcasts, you'll be fine. You read blogs, you'll be fine. Because no matter who it is that you talk to, you will see that we are all talking about the same thing. It's the same thing, but different flavors. However, this is the only warning, this is the only caveat. Just make sure that whichever older colleague you listen to, whichever book you read, whichever podcast you listen to, whichever blogs you read, all right? Whichever guru you follow, make sure the person is talking about principles. The person is talking about systems. The person is talking about frameworks. Run away from people who talk about tactics and tips. I mean, Everly will talk about tactics, and it's that day normal. But somebody who every single day, today they'll say, here are the top 5 tips to something. Run away from that person. Tomorrow they say, here are the top 3 phrases that when you say it will cause people to, triple your order or something. So run away from all those people. I guess the point that I was trying to make here today is, if you've been thinking, you've been looking, you've been searching, good. You're on the right path. If there's a Mr. Femi in your life, you're on the right path. If you're listening to this podcast, you're on the right path. If you don't like my delivery and you're looking for another podcast, that's not a problem. But just make sure that no matter who it is you talk to, no matter what it is you read or you listen to, the person should be talking about principles. The person should be talking about systems. The person should be talking about frameworks. The person should be talking about processes. And then run away from anybody who is talking about tips and tricks and tactics. Because if somebody comes and says, here are the top 5 tips, closing techniques, something, and they give it to you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The problem is the person has spoken about closing technique. The person is not focusing on how to open the technique, maybe how to negotiate, maybe how to handle pricing, maybe how to handle whatever. The person will come and drop you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and just go. You will take it and you say, hey, I've learned something. You now go and try it. The thing won't work. You will now be confused. Why the thing is not working, you will have no idea. But if you have a Mr. Femi in your life and you're talking to Mr. Femi, because Mr. Femi has a process, lead generation, relationships, need analysis, presentation, close, referral. If you hook anywhere, he'll be able to say, this is where you hook and why, and this is how you can overcome. And if you're following someone like me who talks about, like I say, we're all talking about the same thing, just different terminology. If you hook, I can tell you, This is where you hook and why, and this is how we can overcome. Anyway, it's been 20 minutes. Let me not overflog it. So that's all for today. If you'd love to connect with me, call me, send me a text message or a WhatsApp message on 080-6466-2140. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I'll catch you all some other time.